G'day, I'm Ash. I hope you're all doing fantastically well and welcome yourselves to Controller Thunder. That's right, I'm playing War Thunder today without a mouse. There is a very distinct reason for that, as my primary mode for clicking necessarily ceases to exist at this current time. Now, there have been a rather sweeping range of different reasons for that. We've had extremely wild weather down, at least in my area, to the point where there's 120 km/h winds, and we've had flash flooding and lightning and all sorts of things. Storm surges are quite common, so, you know, the only thing to really be harmed out of the whole entire event was my mouse randomly dying, and it's got me on a bit of a train thought here. Is it possible to play War Thunder with a controller? And the simple answer is yes. However, it is a little bit difficult in some regards. Not all the controls are there as your options. Sensitivity is a little bit off. But aircraft-wise, it's perfectly usable. You can fly an aircraft, you've got your up and down, your left and rights, and your yaws. Though I will say, the independent yaw is, or at least for the rudder, is on the other right-hand D-pad. You've got your X, Y, A, B, depending on if you're an X control or not. And some of them do zooms and some of them whatever. And you've got your right trigger for stuff like shooting. These buttons on the back, just above the triggers, they do bombs and rockets. Now, the D-pad lets you get access to, obviously, the team quick emotes, also the chat, and it allows you to switch into cockpit view, as well as see stats on your aircraft. Now, it is dependent on whether you have a keyboard or not. I have been told that you can plug in a keyboard and mouse and just play War Thunder regularly like that. And for the more observant of you, you may have realised that there isn't necessarily a camera function. Or at least I think there wasn't, at least in the initial time that I played this. Again, this was just 40 minutes of me fooling around with a bunch of friends. Unfortunately, the live audio for this would have made a fantastic, entertaining video on its own. Didn't necessarily record my inputs. All I have is a couple of witty remarks from my squad mate at the time. Now you can see it's a little bit convoluted trying to get guns on target there. It's sort of this floating weird mechanic here. You've got to balance your up downs and your left rights. And I mean, for someone who doesn't necessarily play a lot of controller games, this is completely utterly foreign. But anyway, that's how that goes when you're not necessarily paying attention, because you can't see behind you. Or at least in the control scheme, that is default in War Thunder's selection, the Xbox controller, that is. For ground, it's a completely, utterly different matter. The game functions quite realistically in terms of how you'd expect. It's very well polished, and obviously there's been, War Thunder's been out in console for a very, very long time. So, this is a well-matured system. Surprised to say that I was reasonably impressed with the results here. I'm using my right D-pad as sort of the camera for turret control, as well as aiming. Sensitivity was a bit off. Watch as I spot this KV. I can see him over there. See, normally I just pop around the corner, put my mouse on him, and then blam. But as you can see here, the sensitivity is a bit off. And you do struggle getting that shot off. Right trigger for tanks. Fires machine guns and main cannon. So I wonder if there's a separate keybind for that. As you can see down the bottom, there's a range of different controls depending on support. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. And when you go to repair an alloy, I think it's Y or A. But for the most part, it's completely intuitive. What you're doing, how you're doing it, what you're playing with. It just makes sense, really. The control scheme is a little bit clunky, but I don't necessarily expect it to be too bad. The experience overall has been a net positive, aside from, well, maybe the steering. And obviously the lack of sensitivity options, at least in the default control scheme mode. Once you select the advanced one, there are options for you to actually change the sensitivity on things. As you can see, I'm trying to get my gun on target, try and knock out that anti-air that's over there. And alas, I can't even necessarily see him because I'm just that much of a potato. I may as well just use the tank hull and drive the vehicle instead. Now, other than that, it's basic stuff, really. There is a zoom-in function when you're inside the sniper scope, which I don't think I figured out until just a little bit later down the line here. Other than that, not really much else. As you can see, here with the A function, and I'm just sitting here repairing my track. That's basically what I'm doing. Heavy tanks are actually quite good for playing a vehicle like this, especially something so broken as the German, should I say, Finnish KV-1B. Now, I haven't tried flying helicopters, and I haven't tried necessarily driving a ship or a vessel with a controller. That'll probably have to be a follow-up video at some point in time. But I can tell you this much. It was pretty interesting, and it was pretty fluid after a little while. I can see myself getting used to this. if I sat down for a 2 to 3 hour gaming session, if I had no mouse or keyboard, this would definitely be an interesting way to control things, I suppose. But hey, it is what it is. Is it esports ready? No, not necessarily. The benefit that a keyboard and mouse gets you over any of your competitors is twofold. But it's an interesting concept nonetheless. In fact, I've debated doing a series where I just try out different controllers for the sake of trying out different controllers and seeing how that works out. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, I do have a question for those who actually do use a controller. Why do you use a controller over a keyboard? Or, if so, have you tried using a keyboard before? War Thunder just tends to be one of those games where you need a second keyboard in order to keybind everything proficiently. But hey, the controller experience was at least a net positive, and it is fluid. I quite like it, and I might challenge myself to at least stream with a controller for a little bit longer. Anyway, that's it for today's video. My name is Ash. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Right. Bye-bye.